Yo, we're live. What's up?
Yo.
My name is James. I'm the owner of Paydirt DFS.com, and I'm joined by Pablo, who is a very handsome man that does these shows with me. He usually, I'm wearing a hat today specifically because his hair always makes me feel inadequate by being a bald man. And to be fair, I'm a beautiful bald man. My head was meant to be bald. I have a really nice head for being bald, but Pablo's hair is just terrific. So, Pablo, how are you and your terrific hair doing today?
I'm doing well. I had a nice little dinner out with the fam, and I think we have a pretty straightforward slate, which is kind of nice because I think there's a lot of build pathways that you can use depending on your contest size and kind of where you want to plant your flag on leverage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I have not looked at the slate literally whatsoever. The only thing that I know is that Cincinnati is on this slate, and so people want to play Pittsburgh. And I know this from being on Twitter, which is a fucking hellscape, especially.
Yeah, this is your annual tradition of where you can go on Twitter and troll people who think Aaron Rodgers is going to go for 303.
Oh, yeah. He still has not done that since 2020, I think. I think it's been like 5 years since Aaron Rodgers has had a game where he had more than 300 yards and more than 3 passing touchdowns in the same game. He did earlier in the year have 4 passing touchdowns. I do not think he has surpassed 300 passing yards yet this year. I might be wrong. He might have done it once.
We'll talk about that game. It's actually a pretty important game, but it's really, really funny to me that people are gravitating to Rodgers. I almost don't believe it. I feel like it's like when we flip over the cards, it's going to be like maybe a little more muted than we expect.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just such an obvious other way to use that game that seems like so much less hypothetical and dependent on Aaron Rodgers doing well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh man. Yeah. Whoa. Jacoby Brissett projecting for ownership.
Yeah. So look, since you're just diving in, and I have spent many hours on the slate over the last day or two, let me just give a high level overview, and then we can dive in.
Okay.
We have 11 games. We have 6 games that have over 45 point totals. So we have a bunch of very high scoring games. Pricing, which has been the case all year, has some areas that are very loose. Tight end continues to be very cheap outside of one very owned Arizona tight end, which everyone's going to play. There's a lot of running back value. There's a few priority pay-ups at wide receiver running back. And we have a bunch of very, very underpriced quarterbacks, which has been the case for most slates this year.
Yeah.
So I would say this is not unlike many other slates that we've had. What makes it kind of interesting is that at the price points, we have a variety of pivots that are less owned than the chalky versions. And we have ways that we can flip the build through alternative pay-ups. And lastly, we have a few ways that we can sort of just build macro-wise differently based on your flex usage. So what I will say about the slate, given I feel like I've come to terms with the way DraftKings is doing pricing this year at this point. I'm whining about it less, and I'm now just trying to accept how it is and let's figure out the right way to play it. Because it's going to be like this every week at this point. We know that. So let's start with quarterback, because you already pointed out the obvious. We have essentially 2 very chalky pay downs. We have Jacoby Brissett in a very high total game that everybody wants to play with pairing partners that he has that are very easy to use with Marvin Harrison out. We have Trey McBride, who will be probably the most owned player on the whole slate. And we have a very good projection on him, as does the whole industry, with Marvin Harrison out. 2 not great defenses against Arizona and San Francisco. Very high total. A lot of bring back options on the San Francisco side. And Jacoby Brissett, who's done pretty well against harder defenses, and he's only 4.9K. So suffice it to say, he's going to be very chalky, and it makes building very easy. We have JJ McCarthy, who will also be owned. JJ McCarthy, people are a little bit scared. People are happy because he's playing Chicago, and Chicago is perceived to be a very good matchup for quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Suffice it to say, we all know that him and Jay Jefferson have had like zero chemistry all year. Like Jefferson has like done nothing. Now, to be fair, McCarthy has like one good quarter and then it plays. Right? I'm not suggesting Jefferson's not good. I'm just pointing out that they have not gotten there together this year. So by far the most common approach will be to pay down Jacoby Brissett and JJ McCarthy. Mm-hmm. We then have Rodgers, who hilariously is garnering some ownership. To be fair, our projections think he's got a good range of outcomes, as do many. But we'll talk about a pivot that we have. And then there's some ownership on Purdy, not quite as much in the mid-range at 5.8K with all of his weapons back. Like he's got everybody back. Kittle, Jennings, CMC, Pearsall's back. So like he's got his whole array of weapons in that game opposite of Jacoby Brissett with a high total. And then lastly, the other sort of owned quarterback besides Brissett, JJ McCarthy, Purdy, and Rodgers is Justin Herbert, who's a little bit different because he's a pay up. Not a super high pay up. He's 6.3, but significantly higher than 4.9 Jacoby and 5.2 JJ McCarthy. Mm-hmm. So first decision you make on this slate is, are you paying down? If you're paying down, are you using one of the chalky pay downs, or are you using one of the pivots we can talk about in a minute? Or are you paying up to either the mid-range with Purdy or Herbert, or getting really contrarian and getting all the way up to like Stafford or Josh Allen? That decision is pretty important because Brissett and JJ McCarthy are so cheap and they will be so owned that if you just don't play them, you're going to build a pretty different build than what a lot of the rest of the field is doing. So long-winded intro to kind of say that we have a lot of high total games and some very concentrated chalk at quarterback.
People are really going to play JJ McCarthy? Like,
I feel like he might come in a little less owned than we think because everybody appropriately is saying like, do we like the matchup with the Bears that much that we want to play JJ McCarthy? And I think everybody's sort of saying like, not really. I'd rather just play Jacoby Brissett for 300 cheaper against the Niners with a really condensed target tree. Or they're saying, I'll figure out how to get up to Purdy or even up to Herbert, right? So
or just play Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Or Aaron Rodgers. So I think he'll be owned. Like I'm not suggesting he's going to be not chalky. But I do think he'll be held like somewhat in check because of the inherent fragility. And just like he hasn't been good. Like, I mean, he hasn't been good. He hasn't been good, right? It's just a big total in a good matchup. I like JJ McCarthy. I like him.
I think he's going to be okay. Look, I mean, Gordy's already muted us, but like, I think he's going to be good in his career. Maybe, I don't know. I did some comps the other day, which by the way, hold on. I'm going to plug something here really quick. Y'all can fucking fight me about this, but I did a video the other day that is up on TikTok. That's right. Paydirt made a TikTok. Please go follow because I've been pushing this as hard as I possibly can. But I did a video talking about quarterbacks. I think it is, where the hell is that video? I don't even remember. But I did a video around quarterbacks that was like, anyway, go subscribe to that. That was looking at historical comps for quarterbacks. And JJ McCarthy's were not great. Granted, he was like kind of middle of the road, but Caleb Williams looked really, really good in his comps. He's not a rookie, but he looked really good. And the only other quarterback that actually did look good was Jackson Dart, and a little bit surprisingly Dylan Gabriel, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think that JJ McCarthy is good right now. I think that he's squirrely. I think that he's not setting his feet. I think he's making bad decisions. I think that he's like not quite living up to the moment. And he's just not somebody who I would want to play as chalk. That being said, like if I was going to play him as chalk, the thing that I would do is I would play him with a double stack with JJ and Addison, because Addison has been good with him. Like JJ McCarthy and Jordan Addison actually do have a really good repertoire. So I think there's interesting ways to play McCarthy if you're going to go that route. I just don't know why Like, I don't want to play as a 15% on JJ McCarthy. I think that what we see is that he probably comes in 9 or 10%, and Aaron Rodgers jumps up into the 16, 17% range. I think that probably makes a lot more sense. But I'm not stoked on playing an owned JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. So one of the things I did today was I ran your sims while I was kind of looking at the models to figure out, okay, like here's what my intuition is telling me, but what do the sims say? Because I'm not much of a sim user. I intuitively try to figure out what sims want, and I almost use it as like confirmation bias. And what's interesting when I ran the sims, at least a few hours ago, was that they really liked Herbert. And I think the reason they really like Herbert is because of something we'll talk about in a minute, which is that our sims like paying up a quarterback because you're building in a very different way if you're just not playing one of the cheap guys. And it's facilitated by the fact that we have a bunch of pivots at running back where you don't have to pay up for the two, more owned running back pieces, principally CMC and to some degree Bijan, although Bijan's not going to be that owned.
Yeah.
And so I think Herbert's interesting. Like, I think Herbert allows you to build in a very different way than the people who use cheap quarterbacks. I will point out, like, as is well known, that his offensive line is completely in shambles. Like they've got like backups of backups playing.
Yeah.
And I would not be that surprised. Like if like he gets, like, Jacksonville's defense is nothing to be too scared about, but I don't like, I wish I believed that a little bit more in the protection he's getting, but I do understand just from a macro construction standpoint why getting up to Herbert is kind of just like a different way to build than playing the cheap guys. The other thing I'll say is that if you still want to play cheap and you don't want to play own Jacoby and you don't want to play fragile own JJ McCarthy, we have some really interesting pivots at the cheap side this week. Number one, on the other side of Aaron Rodgers, we have Flacco. And I think there's like a perception that Pittsburgh's defense, they did have a good game last week, but in general, like, they have not been a good defense against the pass, number one. And number two, Flacco is like really, did I cut out? Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. He is really, really easy to double with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And our sims and our projections fucking love Jamar Chase as like the clear priority pay up this week. So I just think it's really funny that we have Flacco, who's really cheap. And when I looked before, I don't know how he's showing now, but he had a positive edge before, but it looks like when you reran the numbers, he's not quite as positive.
I mean, he's still neutral. Like, I'll take a -3. That's fine. It doesn't matter. He's still playable. Yeah,
I just feel like it's like the obvious thing that, like, for some reason people won't do. And I don't know. I don't think it's like super duper sneaky, but he's not going to be owned when everyone is playing Jacoby Brissett and JJ McCarthy. And it's just like the other thing about that game is everybody's playing, if they're not playing Rodgers and they're not playing Flacco, they're playing Chase Brown or they're playing Jaylen Warren. So inherently, if you play Flacco, you're getting off of Chase Brown chalk. So I think that's really interesting. The other thing that you can point out from your models, which we can talk about, is it's annual get excited about Jameis Winston Day. So like, I'll let you go first on Winston, but like, we also have Winston and if you really want to get freaky, Mills, who got there last week, as other pivot. Like, you don't have to flip the script by getting up to Herbert or one of the other expensive guys. Like, you can just pivot at cheap quarterback and play a lesser owned cheap quarterback who still projects really well. I guess that's my point.
It's fucking crazy that we have like 10 quarterbacks under 5,500 that are just all like applicable
every week. Yeah.
I hate it so much.
I know.
So first on the Joe Flacco thing, like, I think it's really interesting. Aaron Rodgers is sitting here. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be 15% owned, and I think Joe Flacco is going to be 5% owned. Right? They're $100 more for Joe Flacco for a better projection with an easier stacking combo. The only thing is that it's expensive, right? Like, getting Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Now, T. Higgins is still only $6K, which, by the way, what the fuck is that? T Higgins is 6K, but Jamar Chase is, I'm pretty sure, 8,500. I think he's at, he might be appropriately priced.
Jamar Chase is expensive. He's expensive. Yeah.
So that's the reason why people are lower on Flacco, is because it's easier to stack Aaron Rodgers. But the thing about it being easier to stack is that you never know where the ball is going to go. Like, it might go to DK Metcalf. It might go to one of the 4 tight ends. It might go to, I'm pretty sure that it's Roman Wilson is like the wide receiver 3 or something like that. Like, it might go to Jalen Warren. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
So
I think Warren is the safest bet in that game. I feel like, just like if you play Flacco with the Warren bring back, like, I don't know, you get off.
Yeah, you just do Warren. I mean, I prefer just going with, if I am going to stack in that game, then I'm going to go with the Joe Flacco side. Just plain and simple. I don't know why I wouldn't. Joe Flacco is fireworks for DFS. He throws the ball like 60 fucking times. He throws it 14 times to Jamar Chase. He throws touchdowns to T Higgins. You sack those guys, you bring back DK Metcalf, and like, just move on with your day. I think that's fine. Yeah. That's probably the best single entry way to go about things. But the Jalen Warren and Chase Brown, the problem that I have, and I've talked about this before, whenever there's a stack that is popular, I always look to the running back to see if I can gain leverage. And with the Pittsburgh situation, I can't. So clearly, the other thing to do is to look at the other side. Okay, Chase Brown is popular. Oh, Joe Flacco is not. Very easy. So it's a really, really easy build path for single entry and for large field too, because Joe Flacco is going to be low enough. And I think that T Higgins is going to be low enough that you can end up stacking those two and coming back with DK Metcalf and be just fine even for large field, because you can get different at different positions as well. So I'm with you on the Joe Flacco thing.
And we'll talk about receiver a little bit, because Metcalf kind of fits into this category of receiver pricing that nobody's going to get to this week. We'll talk about it. But the mid-range and wide receiver is like totally getting squeezed while people are getting up or they're going down.
Really quick. Let's talk about value, because I do think that it's worth talking about Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is the fucking man, right? We love him. The DFS industry loves Jameis Winston. This is a weird instance where I don't feel like I need to play a $4,600 Jameis Winston. He's kind of the same play as would be Joe Flacco, except his receiving options suck.
And their total, I mean, I know totals aren't everything, but their total's really low. Like, you're banking on Vegas being totally wrong about them.
You're like, okay, I'm going to play Jameis Winston with Wan'Dale Robinson and Theo Johnson.
That's it.
And that's it, right? Like, you have nothing else. And then what are you going to bring it back with on the other side? There's not even anything to do with Green Bay. I guess you play Josh Jacobs on the other side. That's probably the thing that you do.
Or Dobbs is projecting as industry sort of value chalk too.
Sure. Okay. So Dobbs or Josh, I'd probably play Josh Jacobs, assuming that, their Green Bay is going to have control of the game. But you really only play Jameis Winston if you're trying to stack and save a lot of money. And I think that it is fair to do that, because he's going to be 3-4% owned. Wan'Dale Robinson's going to be 5-6% owned. Theo Johnson's going to be 5-6% owned. That's a good, cheap value stack at low ownership that will allow you to jam all the studs everywhere else. I'm fine with that. But at the same time, like, I don't know that is better than going Davis Mills with Nico Collins and tight end, I can't remember the name.
Dalton Schultz.
Yeah. Or going with Brissett with Trey McBride and Dortch probably?
Dortch or Wilson. Wilson is projecting his industry chalk value too.
Sure.
No one is for some reason playing Dortch, who's actually like a better player than Wilson.
Yeah, Dortch is like actually good. So like all three of these guys, I wanted to sort this by 3x rate, because I think that it is worth saying that like all three of these guys completely in play. I honestly like you play them for different reasons. You can play Jacoby Brissett in single entry or small field. You play Jameis Winston in large field because it's going to be cheap as well as having really low ownership. Or you play Davis Mills for the same reasons why you play Jameis Winston, just kind of like in a middle ground. All three are in play though.
Yep. And that's exactly what I was thinking at the beginning, which is that this slate, while annoyingly loosely priced, does give us a variety of options depending on your field size. And so it is kind of nice in that, like, you can just be like, okay, it's like a menu. Like, oh, I'm playing single entry small field. This is how much leverage I need. I'm playing large field. Okay, I'm going to get weird and play Mills or Winston, right? I think you just tailor it to your field size. And and the thing about them is like they're all in the same price range. So like you're kind of still making the same decisions at flex because they're all the same price range. The one thing I'll say is like Brissett comes with a lot of ownership and in a way that will be like super commonly done. Like Purdy, nobody knows how to stack him because it's like CMC, Pearsall's back, Kittle, Jennings. There's a bunch of ways. Flacco is like pretty much like Chase and Higgins. Winston is like Theo Johnson and Wandale. By the way, Wandale's chalk too. And so like there are build paths that are just going to be more predictable, which is more relevant, I think, for large field or MME than it is for single entry small field or your hand building. But it's important to keep that in mind when you're building. And then the one outlier there, just price wise, is Herbert, and that's part of why I think our Sims, when I looked earlier, kind of like him, is I think it's just like he's the one guy who's at a totally different price range, and so just from a macro build standpoint, you're building completely differently if you're using him instead of one of those cheap guys.
Mm-hmm. Let's answer a couple questions before we move on to wide receiver.
Yep.
Do you guys manually boost the projections of run game for bad weather games, for example, Warren, Chase Brown? So that stuff is already considered in the projections when I build out. I have no reason to make any added adjustments. However, I do think that it is worth, like, as a coin flip, if you wanted to say, do I want to play running back X or running back Y, and running back Y is bad weather? Like, if you want to use it as a tiebreaker, do your thing. But from a projection standpoint, no, I already add those kind of things in. Feels like DraftKings is so flawed with pricing, it's turned into a lottery. If you don't play the chalk, you're toast. Yeah, it's been gross this year, dude. It's been really, really gross, especially for players like me. I mean, Pablo has been better off because Pablo plays chalk pretty heavily.
No, I mean,
on FanDuel, you have made off like a goddamn bandit.
On FanDuel, I mean, I'm like embarrassed. Like, I'm embarrassed to say it, but like this week, I finally just accepted it. Like, money is green, bro. Like this week, my volume on FanDuel is like 5 times as much as DK. I'm like, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna play where like the game is better right now. Like, by the way, FanDuel as an aside, and Taylor Cabby the other day posted a tweet on like industry stuff. Mm-hmm. Like FanDuel, for all of our shit talking about them, and I'm happy to talk about them. Like, I've fully converted all of my sports shit to DK at this point, and their UI sucks, and like they're kind of a joke. They're like seriously like way more invested in DFS right now. Like they're giving out like promos. Like they gave me a bunch of free plays. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know if you guys are better priced and you're fucking want people play there, but that's neither here nor there, right? Josh, I agree. We're frustrated by it. I think it's a conscious decision at this point. I think we're way beyond this being a coincidence every single slate. Yeah. I think you just have to like accept it and just play the slate as best you can, depending on your field size.
Yeah. Favorite Pittsburgh tight end, since he's really bad versus tight end. We'll get there when we talk about tight ends, but the unfortunate answer is like it's such fucking shit show roulette. They legit play like 3 tight ends a meaningful amount of snaps. So
yeah, it's like Jonnu Smith, Freiermuth, and then that huge guy who's like an offensive lineman who Washington or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
All
right,
let's talk about running back.
Yeah.
So because I think running back more so than receiver, outside of your quarterback decision, whether you're paying down, and if you're paying down, are you pivoting to one of the sort of slightly off the board guys, or are you just playing Brissett or JGM? Running back is the other like huge construction decision point. Mm-hmm. And it's for a very clear reason. We have let me just list like the plays that I think are in play. Even, and I would go as far as to say like these are even like midfield, like not just small field, like for probably like mid-size, small field, and maybe you add a few more people for large field. So number one, you got CMC. He is the chalky pay up. He's one of the chalkiest players this week. He's the running back everybody wants. Like his usage is terrific. He's a natural bring back on Jacoby Brissett stacks, and when Brissett is super cheap. So like Brissett doubles and even triples for people playing Wilson, Dortch, and McBride, like it's going to be very common to just have McCaffrey coming back. Okay. After that, we have Bijan, who from a point per dollar play is literally the same play as McCaffrey, like just from a point per dollar play. Like if you look at the 2x, 3x, 4x, they're basically the same play, just at a different price point with a pretty different amount of ownership. So like, I think that CMC versus Bijan is an interesting decision. To me, again, it depends on your field size. The next guy who's kind of in no man's land is Jacobs. He's 7.8K. He's pricey enough where he's going to be very low owned because you're either getting up to CMC or Bijan, or you're going down to the whole next year. And in the next year, we have like 10 guys. And this is where our models and our sims have a very clear stance. Jason and I were talking about it today in the Discord this afternoon. We have Dowdle, 6.8K. RJ Harvey with a roll bump based on injury with Dobbins at 5.4K. We have Chase Brown, who we talked about, 6.5K. We have Warren, 6.2K. We have Aaron Jones, who's 6.1K, which is like how a lot of people want to get exposure to that game if they're not playing JJ McCarthy, right? And then we have slightly less owned, but still decent value, Swift at 5.8K and ETN at 6.9K. So like for my stuff, and I think for even medium-sized field, I don't think you play anybody outside of that pool I just mentioned. Like CMC, Bijan, if you want to get weird, Jacobs, and then that whole group, Dowdle, Harvey, Brown, Warren, Swift, ETN, Aaron Jones. And what I think is really interesting about our sims is I think the industry is going to basically jam CMC. Like the industry is going to jam CMC because he feels like such robust, dependable chalk at his usage in that game across Brissett, right? Like it's just a really easy click. And what was really interesting when I was running the Sims today is that they were suggesting that we actually just go triple pay down at running back because those running backs, Dowdle, Harvey, Brown, Warren, Swift, ETN, Aaron Jones, all those guys are such good point per dollar values that they allow you to get up at receiver where nobody's paying up. Nobody's paying up outside of like Jamar Chase or JSN. So I think it's just like a very critical position in terms of how you allocate your dollars and thinking about how it affects the rest of your roster. And I don't really have a huge problem with like basically any of those running backs. It's more about how you use them in the context of your roster build. So anyway, what are your thoughts there?
Is Rico Dowdle really going to be 10% owned?
He was unowned. So I got to give you credit because Paydirt models were really hot on him before the rest of the industry was. Like yesterday or even Thursday when I looked, Paydirt had Dowdle significantly higher than like ETR. And now Dowdle's been climbing. I think he's going to be protected from getting outsized ownership, but I don't think he's going to be like unowned. I think he'll be around. I think 10% is about right. I think he'll be like owned, but not egregiously owned.
It's fucking wild that he's not going to be chalk at 6,800. People have been jamming this dude down the throat of DraftKings every single week, and it's not like his price has gotten like unacceptably high. Contest sims. So we don't usually show the contest sims on the Slate Talk. I actually like you brought them up because I did run them before the show so that we would have them for reference. But the contest sims love him. He shows up in 49% of winning lineups in the contest sims. He's projected for 10% ownership. I just checked ETR and they have him at 15%. So I think that he probably shows up somewhere between 10 and 15%. And that's a great play. Like he should be huge chalk. 39% edge on him right now. The other guy that I think is going to definitely get more ownership is RJ Harvey because he's like a best ball darling and he's 5,400. And I know that Kansas City's defense is good, but people are going to want to play him. And like, he's going to be 16, 17, 18% owned. So I will certainly manually boost him in ownership going into tomorrow. But then those other guys, Chase Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Warren, those guys will absolutely be chalk. I think, just looking at it, I don't know why I would play Christian McCaffrey at 9K when we have all these cheap running backs. You have Dowdle.
That's what our sims say. I mean, our sims basically are like, just play like 2, if not 3 of the cheaper guys. And then and then you get the whole nother range at wide receiver that nobody's playing.
Well, and especially if you go with Herbert. right? And that was a point that I was going to make earlier.
Yep.
If you go with Herbert and you go like Herbert, McConkey with like Quentin Johnson, right?
Yeah,
or
QJ's been
Gadsden.
and QJ's been gimpy. I don't like he's
Yeah.
I don't know. People are worried.
I don't
about
love
him.
that injury. He's got like a bone bruise or something like that. I'm not super into that. But if you go with him, he's mid-range, right? Like you have a bunch of mid-range there. So you have to pay down at running back in order to get up to Jamar Chase at wide receiver, which I think is probably the right play to do. I think that it comes down to, do you want to play Christian McCaffrey or do you want to play Jamar Chase? I think that's kind of like one of the big decisions that you have to make this week. And I'm going to side with Jamar Chase. And I'm pretty sure that if I look at, Contest Sims agree with me. 51% exposure. So I'm much more into that idea and paying down around Jamar Chase because we have RJ Harvey at 5,400. He's a terrific play at there. Chase Brown at 5,700. I prefer him over Jalen Warren. Aaron Jones at 5,500, who immediately took the lead role as soon as he came back. Travis Etienne at 5,600, who, like, as much as I, don't love the Jaguars offense, like 5,600 for his usage is terrific. And even if I do want to pay up a little bit, I like Josh Jacobs way more than I like Christian McCaffrey just for the price. He's still a negative edge here. His exposure is not that high. But to your point on Bijan Robinson, I think that Josh Jacobs and Bijan Robinson both have really good roles. And Josh Jacobs kind of has the nut spot, right? Like an offense facing a Jameis Winston-led offense that has Wan'Dale Robinson as its wide receiver one. He might get to run the ball 25 times tomorrow because the Giants just won't be on the field. So I think that there's probably a lot of really good reason to just not play Christian McCaffrey on this slate.
Yeah. And Bijan, like people are a little bit hating on the play because Algiers red zone role. Like he does vulture Bijan a lot. But the truth is, like, Bijan's a fucking beast. Like the dude can run like two. Well,
remember Algiers, he was 1,000-yard rusher, man. Like he was good. He came out of college and good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get it. I just think that like I'm okay. Like when I started building yesterday, I was like, oh, I guess I have to play CMC. And I was like, well, maybe I don't. Like there's so many fucking running backs that are good value and that are less owned. And they give you the savings to get up at quarterback and or get up at wide receiver. And the build path this week is like very clearly the value quarterback in Brissett or JJ McCarthy, pay up for CMC, pay up for McBride, and then basically use like stars and scrubs at receiver / tight end, where you're playing like a bunch of punt dudes with either Jamar Chase or JSN, or some people use Rice or Puka. And we're going to talk about it in a minute, but it's going to leave this huge mid-tier at wide receiver that's really like untapped of like a bunch of guys. Like you mentioned one of them at the beginning, DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
That like outside of stacks are just not going to be used. And so I think it's a pretty sharp way to play this week to just say, you know what, like I'm gonna pick like 2, if not 3 of these cheaper running backs that I like. And I think they're all fine. Like I think there's a good reason to play all of them. Like Dowdle, you just talked about. RJ Harvey, like he's cheap as hell and he's probably pretty good. Brown, fine, he's owned. I kind of like the Flacco stuff as leverage off of him. Warren, I think Warren is terrific. And Aaron Jones, like, I don't know. To me, it's like maybe that's just how I get exposure to that game, like the Minnesota game. Just play Aaron Jones. Like if he's his usage has been great. He's been balling out. The one guy who I think is really interesting, who's not going to be played, and admittedly, our range on him is not amazing. It's fine, but it's not as good as the guys we just mentioned. I think it's DeAndre Swift. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm a little ball knowing a little too much and trusting my eyes, but that dude has been balling the fuck out. Like if you watch him the last few weeks, like man, like everyone was excited Monangai or whatever, and then like Swift came back and he has been really, really strong. So I think he's a pretty nice sort of sneaky play at low ownership.
I mean, Swift is he's good. Like I was excited when he went to the Bears. I think what I have in my head right now is a Bengals stack with RJ Harvey, and Josh Jacobs and then see what I can do. Or RJ Harvey and Rico Dowdle, right? I think that like this combo right here is just so good. And I'm gonna say it right now. All right. I've been on a huge fucking downswing. I'm down like
this is the week.
I'm going back to my roots. All right, I'm gonna play 3 in the 333 or 3 in the 555. I'm gonna say just fuck the MME script. Just let me get back to my hand building roots because this downswing is fucking.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. What's really nice about the slate, I said it in Discord today, is that, and you're already seeing it very clearly the same way I did. It's a very easy slate to see clearly. Like you still need shit to fall your way. Like you still need, if you play a Flacco double, like you still need him to get there and Chase Brown not to, right? But there are very clear pathways to build this week. And it's kind of fun. Like it's fun. It's fun when that happens. So let's talk about wide receiver because wide receiver, we have Jamar Chase, who we love. Industry loves him too. He's pretty owned. He's like clearly like the best pay up. We have JSN, who's been really, really strong all year. Then a little bit below that, we've got Puka and Rice. And then we have J. who's going to be pretty much exclusively played in JJ McCarthy stacks. Like no one's playing J. Jefferson like as a one-off or like as a mini. Then we have Cheap Chalk. The Cheap Chalk is at punt. We have Michael Wilson. And in the mid-range chalk, we have Wandale and Dobbs. Okay. And like those are like if the guys I just listed, Chase, Jason, Puka, Rice, J. Jeff, Michael Wilson, Wandale, Dortch, and not Dortch, Dobbs, like those guys are going to be like comprising a significant component of the field ownership. So the other thing that's interesting about this slate is that we're leaving a huge mid-range leverage tier, and it's directly related to what we were just talking about. It's related to the fact that people are getting up to CMC and getting up to McBride. And so to get up to CMC and to get up to McBride, you have to use the punt receivers. So people are using like Michael Wilson or Wandale or Dobbs, who aren't punts but are cheap. And it's leaving this whole tier of like ceiling mid-range receivers that are not going to be owned. Like T. Higgins, Nico Collins, Igbuka, Zay Flowers, Shakir. Now Coleman's out, by the way, because they're benching him because he sucks. So one of the really interesting things to do with your approach, where you just don't play CMC, with or without one of the chalky cheap quarterbacks or with one of the pivot cheap quarterbacks, is say, you know what, like I'm going to get up to one of these guys. I'm going to get up to like T. Higgins in a Flacco double, or Nico Collins with or without Mills, or DK Metcalf, right? Like there's a lot of like really low owned, very good mid-range wide receiver plays this week.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, I'm sorting right now by 3x percentage, and like T. Higgins looks terrific. Wandale Robinson at 5,500 looks awesome. Romeo Dobbs looks totally fine, right? Shakir, who you mentioned, like project for 13, his expected fantasy points are fine. Keon Coleman's been benched. So I think like all of those guys make a lot of sense. You move down a little bit farther. There's Michael Wilson chalk, right? Which sure, fine. Dortch is right there, projected a little bit below him. But then Quentin Johnson is only 5K. McMillan, who people loved earlier on in the year, projected for 4% ownership against Atlanta, who's not good, right? Lad McConkey, 6,500. And then you have, you know, like the Ricky Pearsall, Cortland Sutton, Zay Flowers. I mean, Zay Flowers, he was, okay, look, last week, Lamar Jackson was 6,800, Zay Flowers was 5,900, and they were respectively like 20% and 30% owned. And this week, they get a nominal price increase and are now going to be a combined 8% owned or something like that. I mean, that's just stuff to take advantage of. People just aren't paying attention with something like that. So there's a lot of really good mid-range. And man, people 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, I tell you, hey, at some point in the next couple weeks, people are going to stack Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson. I wouldn't want any fucking part of that, right? I mean, Jacoby Brissett, he's a backup for a reason. I know that he's been good, but are we really, really willing to play 30-something% Michael Wilson with 20-something% Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah.
Are we really?
I think so here's why, and I know I've already said this, but this is why it's happening, right? It's happening because it's a very condensed target tree. So you've got like Brissett, Wilson, Dortch. Everybody's playing McBride this week. We'll get to tight end in a minute, but he is like the consensus. Like he'll probably be like one of the highest owned plays of the year, like literally the entire year. McBride, like in small field this week, is going to be like, I kid you not, I think he'll be 60%. And Brissett is so cheap that it allows you to get up to like whatever combination you want of CMC, Jamar Chase, JSN. And so it's purely like a pricing combined with combined ownership, combined condensed target tree thing. It's like an ownership, and it's going to lead to like very specific builds. Like it's going to be like Brissett, McBride, Wilson, CMC, or even Brissett triples. And the other reason is because the pivots that you could use instead of Brissett at his price range, people are uncomfortable with. Like people, like JJ McCarthy, like we're all like, like, do we really want to play JJ McCarthy? Like he's kind of like not been that great. Davis Mills, like, okay, he got there last week, but like Mills, like he's kind of scary. And then people just, it's hard then the alternative is you have to go all the way up to Herbert or you have to, and then you like have to play like a completely different build in these cheap Brissett lineups, right? The one exception to that, which I don't want to like overstate, but it is like the one exception, and it's made even nicer by the fact that you get leverage on Chase Brown, that our Sims and our models love T. Higgins. The one exception to all that is Joe Flacco. Like that's where you can play Higgins, Chase, Flacco, bring it back with Warren, or bring it back with Metcalf, or just fucking full game second. Bring it back with Warren and Metcalf if you want for small field. And like you don't have to make any concessions there. But to your point, it's worth being wary of fragile wide receiver value chalk when it's combined with like a quarterback that's also going to be owned, when it's also combined with very clear build pathways that leave you with like 2v2s to try to win, right? And so I think it's worth just considering pivoting all the way. And you know, so I don't disagree with you. I think, like, by the way, I also just think it's weird that Dortch is not more owned. Like I basically think him and Wilson are like almost the same play. It's just Dortch is like way less owned, and Dortch is arguably better than Wilson.
Yeah, I think Dortch is better. Like the ownership, if I sort this by ownership, the ownership is fine at wide receiver, right? Like Jamar Chase, fine. Michael Wilson, I'm not doing that. I will say that I'm not doing this on Michael Wilson. If tomorrow when I flip the cards and he's 35% owned and I don't have him, then fucking Jesus take the goddamn wheel. I'm not touching that. JSN ownership, sure. Wan'Dale Robinson, sure. Justin Jefferson, sure. Metcalf, Puka, Juwan Jennings, sure. Rashee Rice, I think, is way too low owned. At 13% owned.
He's very analogous to the Jacobs play. Like he's just priced in a way. Like we have CMC Bijan, and then we have Jacobs, right? And then we have all the cheap running backs. Similarly here, we have Jamar Chase, JSN, Jeff, and like Rice is like above Jefferson, but not quite up to Chase and JSN. And so he's just in this weird price where he's fucking awesome, and like he's just not going to be that owned because of his price.
I mean, his expected fantasy points are higher than anybody else on this slate. And that's fucking saying something. I know that he's only had a couple games back from suspension, but he has been peppered. He's by far their number one, and he makes for a terrific bring back against RJ Harvey as well, by the way. Speaking of which, just a by the by, I was building a lineup off to the side here. The Broncos defense 2,600 is a fucking sick play. 2,600. That like
cheap, a really good defense.
That's a really good defense playing at home where you can play a cheap running back with them. That's a sick play right there.
I agree.
But yeah, just the ownership here, it's fine overall, except for Michael Wilson. I'm just not going to play 1,000,000% on Michael Wilson, but that's kind of a cool thing, right? Like, all that you really have to do is just say, I'm not going to play Michael Wilson with Jaylen Warren on this slate, and you're really just free to play the best plays overall, which is what I mostly tried to do last week and ended up not cashing by the skin of my dick, which was annoying. But like that's just been the name of the game, is like find the thing on the slate that is just like people shouldn't be doing that one. And just like don't do that one and do the rest. Like play Jamar Chase with Wan'Dale Robinson and DK Metcalf and play them with Jacoby Brissett and Trey McBride. Just like don't play all of that with Jaylen Warren and Michael Wilson, and you're fine. Yeah. And I think that's something that, you'll see if you go and use the contest analyzer, which like shout out to the contest analyzer over at Paydirt. If you don't know,
contest analyzer has been, the PM has been winning people a lot of money.
Oh yeah. The portfolio manager has been terrific, but the contest analyzer as well. This is just like what is it? That thing over at Roto-Grinders. I don't remember the name of it. Anyway,
where you
can review all the lineups and all the contests, and like I'll do another video on this later. But like if you go and use that and look at the best players lineups, it's basically like they have like 7 running backs in their entire portfolio. They have like 14 wide receivers in their entire portfolio, and all they're doing is just playing a shit ton of chalk, but then being very, very conscious of avoiding combinations of that chalk in ways that allow them to have relative value, and that's the name of the game here.
So let's go to tight end, and then we can talk sort of like a few macro thoughts with
really quick. Let's hit some questions before we move on.
Yeah.
And then we'll do that. So again, we're going to talk about tight end here in a second, but I just wanted to bring up because I did not forget about this question.
Yep.
This is in reference to Dowdle. He sort of burned people last week, so maybe some bias from the field. Sure, yeah, but I mean, I just think the field is bad at this. Mostly. I mean, like a bias shouldn't explain like literally 30% ownership difference. Is Aaron Jones a sharp pivot in that range? Yes, absolutely. I think that both Pablo and I agree that Aaron Jones.
He's not super sneaky. Like he will be fairly owned, but he's not going to be crazy owned. Like he'll be owned, but not out of hand.
You guys are talking me into Herbie. I think it's sharp if we get the right script. Ladd, Gadsden, and Madison Beer. Yo, look, you never have to talk me into taking Madison Beer. I'll put Madison Beer in every lineup, in every playlist. Her music isn't that good, but like I'll put her in playlists. I mean, she's just.
By the way, I learned something on Twitter this week that's really hilarious, and I think it's real. Like if you tell me I got AI'd or whatever, fine, I got AI'd.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Herbert has a brother on the Jaguars who's a tight end, and he's like bizarro, like kind of uglier Herbert.
Yeah.
He's like the tight end version of Herbert. He's like the not sexy, like he's like a little, his face is like a little more fucked up, and he's like definitely not dating Madison Beer. I had no fucking idea. I had no idea. Did you know? I had no idea his brother was in the NFL.
I didn't know that his brother was in the NFL, but fun fact, he's actually dating Madison Beer. Speaking of the bizarre world, yeah, he kind of looks like Trailer Park Justin Herbert.
That's a good way of putting it.
But man, Madison Beer, fucking love that woman. Actually, last fun fact about Madison Beer before we move on. Madison Beer actually does the vocals for one of the girls in KDA, which is a K-pop group made out of League of Legends characters. Great, their music is fucking great. Madison Beer, actually, that's her best performance in anything she's ever done is in KDA. So
I agree. I really like that one. I've been playing that one on repeat.
Yeah. It's just good stuff. Aaron Jones, 20% ownership. Wow, he's 15-20% point play at max. I mean, I think that he has like, I tend to agree 15 to 20 is like where his first deviation ceiling is. But I also don't know that you need too much more than that in his price range, right? Like when you compare, if you treat him like flex play, and you have all these other guys in this $5K to $5,500 range, he's kind of the same play as a lot of them, right? There's a couple of them, like I think Quentin Johnson has a higher ceiling. I think that, DK Metcalf probably has a higher ceiling, but you're probably going to be playing those guys with Aaron Jones, not in lieu of Aaron Jones. So, I don't know. I think that he's probably still fine at 20%. One thing about RJ Harvey is he's not immune to Sean Payton fuckery. He's known to be an absolute ass out situations. Sure, but I mean, they have liked using him in weird ways. I kind of have, speaking of the Sean Payton stuff, he's kind of used him a little bit like Alvin Kamara. Like they're willing to roll him out on these like fun little routes and wheel routes and like use him as like kind of a cool little receiver gadget guy in the back. So I think that actually the Sean Payton fuckery is a good thing here for RJ Harvey. Whereas like, Sean Payton kind of likes him. And then last one, James, you would end your losing streak if you could just roster Madison Beer and Rico Dowdle. Fucking absolutely. Yeah, my losing streak. I mean, to be fair, Margaret is an absolute smoke show. But Madison Beer, like let's be clear. If I could roster Madison Beer.
She's almost Margaret.
Yeah, she's almost Margaret. She's Margaret with many more dollars, but not as much of my heart. Okay, let's move on to tight end.
Yeah, so let me just get right to the point. For small field this week, I really think you just see McBride. Like McBride is he's our seventh best overall play. Like if you sort with wide receiver, running back, tight end, he's like our seventh or eighth best player. Like for putting aside quarterback, he's our best. He's our seventh or eighth best flex player. Like his usage is just so insane right now. And now Marvin Harrison is out. He's just a receiver. Like he's not really a tight end, right? And yes, he's 6.3K. But that's a totally fair price. Like our range of outcomes for him shows him to be really, really good chalk. So I think in small field, you basically just play him. I will say, and then I think the take home of the other point is it's the same as every other fucking week. Like if you don't play him, you correlate your tight end. Like we say every other week. Like if you're playing Herbert, play Gadsden. If you're playing Purdy, play Kittle. I do think Kittle's a little bit interesting, sort of secondary leverage off CMC. I know they're not directly leverage off each other, but they're a little bit leverage off each other, right? Because Kittle gets some red zone touches, and I think Kittle's an interesting play. I also think you can go double tight end, although we have so many good running backs that I don't know that you need to. And then as it relates to Pittsburgh, I think it's the point you already made, which is I would probably be inclined just to play Jonnu Smith because he's 2,800, which is 300 more than the Stone Min. And he's actually good. He's actually good. He was good at least last year. He was good at the beginning of this year. But fair enough, Freiermuth or that guy Washington could get there instead of him. I think I would just play Jonnu Smith. I don't remember what our models say. But I would only do that if you're playing Aaron Rodgers. Other than that, there's no reason not to play McBride or whoever quarterback you're using, correlate one of the other guys.
There are so many good cheap tight ends this week.
Yeah.
Bone bruise or not, Gadsden at 4,600 is fucking stupid. Yeah. I did earlier when I said I'm not super into playing Gadsden with a fucking bum knee. I didn't realize he was $1,000 unpriced.
Yeah.
That's a bad price on Gadsden. George Kittle at 5K is more appropriate. Theo Johnson is a great play at 4,100. Cade Otton is a great play at 4,200. Mark Andrews is an awesome play at 3,500, especially at 3% owned. Harold Fannin Jr., Kyle Pitts, man, Travis Kelce is 4,800, man. And he usually smokes Denver.
Yeah. So one thing I'll say that combines something you said you already want to do with something that the field won't do is you don't want to play Michael Wilson, right? And neither do I.
Yeah.
So what you can do instead is you can play McBride in small field, and you can just double tight end, which nobody's going to do. And you can use Theo Johnson, or you can use any of these cheap tight ends, and then you can do whatever you want. So I don't think anyone's going to play double tight end. I will say there is some opportunity cost this week because the only reason you're playing double tight end is so that you can get up at two of your flex positions, right? The only reason you're playing double tight end is so you can get up to JSN and Jamar Chase, or like Bijan and Jamar Chase or whatever. And what you're doing when you're doing that is you're not playing one of those like 10 running backs that we said is underpriced, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a decision. Like, do you really want to forgo one of all those awesome running backs in the flex spot? But I think I just think like nobody's going to play double tight end this week because everyone's just going to play McBride, or they're just going to correlate with their quarterback. So I think double tight end will be a pretty unique build strategy, and it does allow you to get off Michael Wilson as well.
I mean, it's not even double tight end though, because you're playing Trey McBride.
Right. If you just pretend that McBride is like another wide receiver spot, then you're actually not playing double tight end.
You're not playing double tight end. You're playing Trey McBride and a tight end. So I just it's one of those things where like if you can play a $4,600 quarterback and Trey McBride, you just kind of break the rules of DFS in doing that. Yeah. Because Trey McBride, you get to play him in the flex as a wide receiver at 6,300, who legitimately should probably be like 7,500 or 7,800 or something like that. You get $1,000 off him. You get to play a quarterback who at 4,600 is a better projection than like every other play in that range. You just get to like break the rules. You get to have $2,500 extra to do whatever you want. So I just don't know why you wouldn't do that. That just seems super simple to do that. Yep. So there's one of my very fun Wildcat lineups tomorrow is using Jameis Winston and Trey McBride in the flex. I'm putting it down on paper now that's one of the things that that just seems like cheating on this slate.
Yeah. I mean, what's annoying is just that because it's so loosely priced, like you can build like a really amazing lineup, but it still is a little bit of roulette because there's so many other ways to also build cheap lineups.
Oh, for sure. But like, let's just take a look at 5K and less here. Actually, let's say 4,900 and less, right? Because that seems more appropriate of like, where these quarterbacks are at. Very, very, very clearly, quarterbacks are underpriced here, man. Quarterback. Tight end. Like, you should use one of these quarterbacks and probably one of these tight ends, right? It's so free. This slate is free. I actually love this slate after we have broken it down.
I don't know. What I think is funny is like people keep wanting DraftKings pricing to get better. So every week I keep seeing people saying like on Twitter or on Discord or whatever, like even in a couple podcasts from sharp people, like this slate's like a little more tightly priced. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you looking at? Like every tight end is free. Every quarterback is free. Like what is tightly priced? Like that you have to pick between Chase, JSN, CMC, and like Bijan. Like, yeah, like those guys are expensive. But other than that, everybody else is fucking free.
Yeah. Everyone is fucking free, dude. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, the lineup that I just built is legit crazy. And it's just because I get the cheat code of using Jameis Winston and Trey McBride in positions that they shouldn't be able to be used in. Here's how you would fix one iota of DraftKings pricing. Make it so that tight ends can't be used in the flex. That would be an inch step towards it, because then you would eliminate that every tight end is $1,000 underpriced and that using two of them is a little bit of a cheat code. And then obviously the other thing is, why the fuck are there any quarterbacks under $5,500? That should just be the floor for every quarterback. It's $5,500. They do it for like Showdown. Why not do it for rank?
Yeah, like unless like somebody gets hurt last minute and the backup gets called up or something, right?
Right. No, I mean even then, like even fucking practice squad, like fucking put the water boy at 5,500. I don't care. It's crazy. Anyway. Hey gents, am I late? You are. We started an hour early today, but don't worry, it'll be reposted to YouTube after we are done. So don't worry about that. Henry is sneaky. Cleveland has possibly 2 defensive linemen out. I don't think look, man.
I don't trust it.
I fucking played Derrick Henry last week, and he had like 7 opportunities to score 2 touchdowns, and he would have if he was 40% owned, but he didn't.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
But we just have so many running back plays. Like I just don't think you need to get that off the board. I don't know.
No, I look. I mean, we can go and look at.
He doesn't project super well. I just
it's so hard. It's hard to get him to project well. He's fine, 6,600, but he doesn't have a receiving role, and they have been clear that they just don't care to jam him in the red zone. So I don't.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do it.
It's hard. It's okay for really large field if you want to play somebody who's going to be 3% who is upside. So in terms of so we've talked about macro build strategy. We've talked about the importance of your quarterback spend and your running back decision making on whether you just don't play CMC, which I think allows you to open up your lineup quite a bit. Just macro wise, I'll just point out a few things. Just game environment, like Cincinnati, Pittsburgh is an important game because people are going to play either Warren and or Brown. And I think we've talked about one way to play that game is just play Flacco and with Chase and Higgins. And so you get off. And I don't know how you feel about Warren versus Brown. People are very excited about the fact that Chase Brown no longer has Samaje Perine because he got hurt, and that's going to open up a ton of usage. Brown, I know the ETR guys were talking about how Brown's usage is just going to be astronomical, and they think that the casual players are just unaware of how much Brown's going to get used this week. And I don't disagree. His usage should be good. I don't know. I feel I don't know. I mean, they're kind of the same play. Warren and Brown are kind of the same play. I think the only difference is I feel more comfortable. I sort of like the leverage off the opposite game. You already talked about this. I like the leverage you get off Rodgers with Warren, and I like the leverage you get off Chase with Flacco. So I think that's kind of why I'm leaning that way. But just Flacco or Brown versus Warren, they're very similar plays. Chicago, Minnesota, we talked about a little bit. I think everybody's a little queasy about using JJ McCarthy as chalk. And I think that's appropriate queasiness. He's pretty fragile. He's pretty fragile chalk, right? Is it crazy that he could get there? I don't think it's crazy. I do think it's a little wish casty. We all want him to get there, I think there's a little bit of the zeitgeist around JJ McCarthy is also that he's kind of cool. And there's the Twitter videos of him in the locker room being a psychopath. And everybody wants him to be good. I want him to be good. I think he's fucking cool. He's cool to watch. He's handsome, whatever. But if we're just are objective about it, he has not been very good this year. He has not been very good, right? And he's going to be very owned. So I don't know. I think my approach for that game is mostly Aaron Jones, and I don't think Aaron Jones is super sneaky. I just think it's if I want some of that game, it's through him. We talked about San Francisco, Arizona. I think Brissett is the obvious way to play that game. Because he's the obvious way to play that game, I do think Purdy will be probably less owned than he should be. And the reason he will be less owned than he should be is for 2 reasons. Number one, anybody who's stacking Purdy is asking themselves, why the fuck am I not just stacking Brissett when he's cheaper and he has a much more condensed target tree? The other reason Purdy will be less owned, there's actually 2 more reasons. One is because people want to play CMC, and people don't love playing CMC with Purdy, even though he's fine to play. They're fine to play together. And the third reason, which I think is a very fair reason, but I think because it's going to lower his ownership, is a reason to consider it a little more strongly, is because it's really hard to figure out how the fuck to stack Purdy. You now have to choose between CMC, Kittle, Jennings, Pearsall. it's very hard. Like, I mean, it's very hard to figure out how to do that, right? So I'll just point out that I think for like medium field and even large field in that game, because everybody's using Brissett, I think Purdy's kind of sharp. Like, admittedly, it's his first game back from injury, and that's always a little bit scary. But presumably they held him out a little longer because they did not want to bring him back too fast this time and have him be unhealthy, right? And they did that with all their guys. Like, everybody's back. Like, all their fucking weapons are back. So I think that optionality in terms of how you stack him makes him harder to stack, but it's mitigated by the fact that will suppress his ownership a little bit. And so I think he's kind of an interesting play because of that in that game.
Also, it's cheap. It is cheap to stack Purdy, right? I mean, it's 16.2. I pulled up the stacks range of outcomes here.
Yep.
But it's 16.2 for Purdy, Pearsall, Kittle. And you get a game total over 25 for San Francisco. They're projected for 44, which is well within range of other more expensive stacks, right? And you're going to get that at, relatively muted ownership. 20% aggregate ownership is not high. So I do think that San Francisco, like, it's more expensive than the Arizona side of Michael Wilson and Trey McBride. But, like, frankly, I was never going to play Michael Wilson at 40% fucking ownership anyway. So, I think that that's a perfectly acceptable way to go about stacking. It really is. There's just so many ways to get cheap stacks this week. I can't find a reason outside of really small fields to go Brissett, Wilson, McBride. I can't. I don't think I could justify that. That's good. As we are looking at the stacks range of outcomes really quick, we can bring up a couple other ones here. The Chargers look good. That Herbert, McConkey, Gadsden combo looks strong. 17-4.
Also with muted ownership.
Right. Also with muted ownership as well. Kansas City stacks getting no ownership, looking really, really good. Team total is 23. Kansas City's a better team, just straight up there. They should win that game. But, a little bit more expensive. We have Seattle stacks, which are not going to get any ownership. Darnold, JSN plus Barner looks pretty good.
Yeah. You sort of have to, like, you sort of have to play the Seattle side, because if you look at Stafford, if you look at that 2x, 3x, 4x, like, it's just so much worse than everything else. That's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. So you're like forced to use Darnold if you're going to play that game. Yeah.
I do think that if you could find the value, the Puka plus JSN combo seems like fucking nuts. That seems sick. But overall, there are a lot of stacks that are not getting ownership. So I really do think this week is a really, really good week. It's always a good week to kind of be a little bit weird with your stack, but this week especially, I think there are so many upside stacks in this mid-range that as long as you can, I think it really just does come down to not playing Christian McCaffrey. And usually I'm just like, yeah, play Christian McCaffrey. But this week, I think there's a really, really good reason not to do that, because there are so many mid to high mid stacks that you can utilize that are not getting the ownership they deserve, that have good totals, that have really good target trees. Christian McCaffrey bars you from doing that effectively unless you use him with Michael Wilson. So I think that's just combo to avoid. I just think you stay away from that.
Yep. Somebody, if you pulled up Dicey, pointed out he would still stack CMC with Purdy, which I don't disagree. Like, I think it's fine if you do want to play CMC, like, that'll be one way he probably won't be used much. Like, he that is one way you can use him that will be sort of unique. I think if you do want to use him. Like, the way he'll be used by everybody will just be Brissett, Wilson, McBride, CMC. Like, that'll be like 60% of the way CMC is used, like maybe more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so, we'll take some questions if you got them, but up until then, I think
any. So let's people ask any final questions if they got them. I think we talked about sort of like the build approaches, the sneaky spots. There's a few players that are just mispriced that I think are any players that you feel conviction on based off your first review here as we went through this. We heard a couple that you mentioned, and if you do, let's hear it.
Uh,
You want me to go
I
first?
I love Dowdle at 6,800, but I think the play that I like the most is Josh Jacobs. I really want to try to get Josh Jacobs. I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think that Josh Jacobs is kind of the quintessential at home as a large favorite running back that like you want to play. I don't even know if he's at home, but I'm using the analogy here because when we wanted to play home favorite running backs, the reason why we wanted to do that was because they were expected to get a whole bunch of carries. They were expected to get a bunch of work and have a good game flow and have game script go their way, all that kind of stuff. Josh Jacobs is just like the quintessential. They should have a whole bunch of the time of possession. They're facing an offense that likely is not going to be able to move the ball very well. And it should put the Giants into garbage time, which is where Jameis Winston kind of like wins the game, right? So I think that Josh Jacobs is probably the play that I am the most into that the rest of the field is not. But outside of that, the play that I am the most interested in is just Trey McBride, specifically in the flex. I'm not even considering playing him in the tight end. I'm considering playing him purely in the flex as wide receiver because of the ridiculous value that it unlocks. Two tight ends this week is just insane.
I'm going to take the one that you mentioned before that I thought you were about to say, because I said he is the Josh Jacobs at receiver this week when you talked about it. Mm-hmm. And I think very similar, like very analogous pricing and ownership situation to Jacobs in the running back range is Rashee Rice.
Yep.
He's just like he's expensive enough where he's not up there with Jamar Chase and JSN and Puka, but he's not low enough where he's not down there with like Wandale or Dobbs or the punt guys, where he's going to be owned. Like he's going to be somewhere in like the 10 to 15% range, but he should be higher. Like he should be higher based on his expected fantasy points, based on his usage, based on that team total, based on his ceiling. I know Denver's defense is good, but you know, it's not like Mahomes and Rashee Rice are bad. Like they're good players.
Yeah, I love that. I think that the stacks that I'm most interested in this week, because I wanted to kind of like call these out as well. I really love Cincinnati stacks, but the stack that I'm probably most interested in is going to be a Charger stack. I think that Charger stacks make a lot of sense. Jacksonville is a defense that we have been happy to attack for years now, right? Like they just run bad schemes. And on the other side, like they're so beat up at wide receiver that there's cheap and like low mid-range options that you can utilize in bringbacks as well if you want to really target that game environment. So I think that Charger stacks are really, really interesting. The only other stack that like I wish that I could get to that I don't think it's going to really be possible for me to get to is going to be Ram stacks.
Yeah, I think they're going to get there. They're just so hard to get to.
Yeah, I don't think I can get there unless I do like Dortch and Michael Wilson, which like there's a way to do that. You could go Brissett, Dortch, Michael Wilson, not play Trey McBride, play Puka plus Devontae Adams and bring it back with JSN, and that would work. Yeah. But it'd be fucking gross. So not sure that I really love that. But I just think that Rams
it is going to be totally underowned. I just think if once you start building and you look at your range of outcomes in the lineups you can get to, like I tried. I really did. I tried earlier today. Like it's like you kind of like have to use Darnold, and when you start doing that, you're like, like they're really like you end up just being like, I think I'll just play JSN.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. We got a couple questions, then we'll get out of here. Any concerns about the weather in Cincinnati, Pittsburgh? No, not really. I mean, they're still gonna do their thing outside of like monsoon weather. I just don't care all that much. CMC with Purdy. Okay. Yep. We talked about that. I think that's fair. Thoughts on Warren and Chase Brown in the same lineup? I don't mind that. I think that a lot of people worry about that, similar to the way they worry about having pitchers opposing each other in MLB.
I don't think it's that big. I think it's similar to Swift and Jones. Like I think you can play them across each other too.
Yeah. Totally fine. There's no reason to avoid stuff like that. Like the only reason why you would avoid things like that is if one team has a really low team total and the other one has a really high team total. Those are the situations where it's just like, you know, you can find a running back with a better team total somewhere else that is expected to have more rushing touchdowns. You just don't need to do that. So I don't mind it in this situation. like Pablo just brought up, I don't mind it in the Swift and Aaron Jones situation either. I think it's totally fine. Thoughts on DeMarcado? Just not even on my radar. There's
not in the player pool.
No, there's so many good running backs this week that I don't need to be weird with my play. And then last one, you play Higgins instead of McBride or both Chandler and Gordy. Yeah, I mean, you could absolutely play Higgins and McBride. But like McBride, dude, like McBride should legit just be locked in the flex tomorrow. In anything outside of the Millie Maker, I think that you should just start with McBride in your flex. That's my take. I think 2 tight end is the key this week. 2 tight end, cheap quarterback with Jamar Chase as your spend up, and like that's where you start. I think that's the nuts. So this is going to do it for us. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out over in the Discord. You can find the Discord in the information. Drop down into the community Discord. Join. It is free. If you are interested in everything we have talked about, want to use some models yourself, come grab a subscription. $40 a month for everything on the site, $35 a month for just NFL, or there's also NBA packages or NHL packages as well. The NBA yearly is up right now, $240 access for until May 30th. Then you can also grab a $20 weekly or $5 daily. Thank you guys so much for the support. We really appreciate it. We appreciate everybody watching. Like I said, go follow us over on TikTok, please. Trying to build that shit up. I'm posting TikToks every day, which, by the way, it's kind of fun. But trying to build that up. So if you have a TikTok, go follow. Otherwise, find us on X, find us on YouTube, find us on TikTok, find us in the Discord. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up. I will break out of my goddamn cold streak this week. I will.
It's coming. This is the week.
This is the week where I take down the Wildcat and I make back however much. I'm kind of embarrassed to say.
It's time.
I won't say it on stream because Margaret will get mad at me when she finds out. But
this is the week you get it back and then you upload into Roto Tracker and you're like, oh look,
that's exactly fucking right.
This is boom, 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 and this is the week it goes like that. Yep.
See, I told you guys I was still fine after. All right, cool. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you guys so much for the support. We appreciate it, and let's win some money tomorrow. All right, adios.